Before I say anything else, I need to tell you this story isn't easy to talk about. I know how it sounds, twins, a shared dorm room, and something that went too far, but that's not where this starts. It starts somewhere quieter. My name's Emily James, and I grew up with my twin brother Ethan James. We were born 4 minutes apart. He came first, and I swear ever since that moment, it was like he never let go of the lead from the outside. People always said we were inseparable. We finished each other's sentences, had inside jokes no one else understood, but it wasn't just that. We were survival partners. Our parents divorced when we were 10, and not the quiet kind of divorce where people sit at the kitchen table and no, it was loud, violent, the kind of split that teaches you to pack a bag fast and sleep with one eye open. We bounced between homes week on week off, sometimes with our mom, sometimes with our dad, and sometimes when things got really bad with neighbors or family friends, but we were always together. Ethan was my constant, my anchor. He was the brave one, the funny one, the one who could walk into a room and instantly make people like him. I was the opposite, quiet, shy, always writing in my journal, always thinking more than I spoke. By the time we got to our senior year of high school, we already knew we were going to the same college. It wasn't even a discussion. We applied together, chose dorms together. It felt natural, like a continuation of everything we'd always been, but nothing prepared me for how different college would feel. Moving day came in August. It was humid as hell. My shirt stuck to my back, as well as boxes up 3 flights of stairs. When we got to the dorm, we realized there had been a mix-up. We were supposed to have separate rooms, same floor, but different sides of the building, but due to some construction delay, the hall my room was and hadn't been finished yet. The raw apologized, saying I could either move in with a random girl I'd never met or temporarily stay in Ethan's room just for a few weeks until things got sorted. I remember glancing at Ethan, waiting for him to say something, but he just shrugged and said, "A few more weeks." So I said okay. We stacked my stuff along the edge of the wall. His side was already full of posters, shoes, and his messy pile of clothes on the desk chair. He tossed me a pillow and told me to take the bed closest to the window, and that was it. 2 twin beds, 1 room, to siblings trying to figure out who they were in a new place, surrounded by strangers pretending they were grown. First, it felt familiar, safe. Even we'd sit on the floor and eat ramen, talk about our classes, walk to the dining hall together, study in silence, and laugh about dumb stuff no one. And I told myself, like I always had, that as long as Ethan was around, I'd be okay. But even then, even in those first few weeks, something had started to shift. I couldn't put my finger on it yet, but there was a feeling, a quiet tension, not between us, but inside me. Ignored it, pushed it aside. After all, we were just brother and sister, right? Twins, best friends, roommates. That's what I told myself over and over again, until I couldn't anymore. First, I didn't notice it. I told myself everything was the same, that we were just adjusting, that college life was naturally going to shift things, different classes, new people, different sleep schedules, nothing unusual. But then she was in Ethan's economics class, the kind of girl who had that loud, sunny energy, always laughing, always surrounded by people. I'd see her at the dining hall waving at him across the room like they'd been best friends forever. He told me about her one night while brushing his teeth, said she reminded him of summer. And I remember thinking how strange that sounded coming from him. Summer? Asked. He nodded, foam still in his mouth. You know, warm, uncomplicated. I didn't say anything, but that word stuck with me, uncomplicated. He started texting her a lot. I'd hear his phone vibrate in the middle of the night. He started wearing cologne I'd never seen him used before. He'd spend hours out of the room, and when I'd ask where he went, he'd just shrug and say study group. But he never looked me in the eye when he said it. I tried not to read into it. I really did. I told myself it was normal. We were in college. We were supposed to make new friends, meet people, grow up a little, but the truth is I missed him, and not in the dramatic, oh my god, he's my brother, and I miss him way. It was quieter than that, emptier, you know, when someone's still around. but they're not really there anymore. That's what it felt like, living with a ghost who still did laundry and told jokes but didn't belong to me in the same way. And that part, that word belongs, that's where things started to get messy in my head. I didn't want to admit it out loud, but there was this knot in my chest. Every time Maya's name came up, he'd walk in still laughing from some joke she told, or he'd hum some song she liked while unpacking takeout, and suddenly the space between us felt crowded. Even when it was just the two of us in the room, I started noticing things like how he used to ask about my day without fail, but now he barely remembered what classes I was even taking or how we used to fall asleep talking. And now he'd come back late, mumble goodnight, and turn away from me, and still I smiled. Still asked how her day was going. Still I told him I was fine when I wasn't, because admitting I wasn't fine would mean saying what I was really feeling. And I didn't even have the language for that yet. Was it jealousy? Probably. Was it fear? Absolutely. But deeper than all of that, it was the feeling that something was being taken from me quietly, slowly, without warning. We used to have this ritual every Sunday night. We lay on the bedroom floor, staring up at the ceiling, talking about everything: the week, the people we liked, the future. We used to joke that we were two halves of the same person, that nobody would ever get us like we got each other. And now here we were, 2 feet apart, in the same room, feeling like strangers. I tried to bring it up one night. I said, "Do you think we're drifting?" "What do you mean? Just we don't talk like we used to." He sat down, tied his shoelace slowly. "It's college, Jay. Things change." I nodded, but I felt something twist in my stomach. "Is she your girlfriend?" I asked, pretending it was a casual question. He smirked. "Does it matter?" "I don't know. I just thought we'd be closer than this." He didn't respond right away. He just stood up, grabbed his bag. "Don't make this weird," he said, already halfway out the door. And then he was gone. That night, I sat on my bed and stared at the wall for hours. I couldn't cry. I didn't even know why I wanted to. I kept trying to explain it to myself, that I was just lonely, that I missed the person who had always been home to me. But somewhere deep down, I think I already knew this wasn't about missing my brother. It was about losing him piece by piece to someone who didn't even know thighs we carried together, and that loss was starting to feel personal. Thunder that night started like any other Friday. The dorms were buzzing, music leaking from open doors, laughter echoing down the halls, the smell of cheap body spray and someone's burnt microwave popcorn hanging in the air. Ethan asked if I wanted to go to a party with him. I hesitated, but then he smiled at me, that kind of smile that said, "Hey, just for tonight, let's pretend things are normal." So I said yes. We walked together side by side like we always used to, and it was stupid how good it felt. The party was crowded, loud, people I didn't know bumped into me, red cups in every hand, but Ethan stayed close, always within reach. I watched him talk to people, laugh, charm. He was good at that, he always had been. I sipped something sweet and artificial, felt the edges of everything soften, and for a little while I forgot what had been bothering me. But on the walk back, he got quiet. I touched his arm. "You okay?" He shrugged, then he stopped walking. "Do you think she's into him?" "Who, Maya?" I blinked. Edna Walker's been all over her. I saw them outside the party. He had his hand on her back. I didn't know what to say. "She looked happy," he mumbled. I stayed quiet. Part of me wanted to say good, part of me wanted to punch the air and scream, "You've been breaking me for weeks, and now you want comfort." But what I actually said was, "She's not worth it." He gave a bitter laugh. "You don't know that I know what you look like when you're hurt," I said softly, and I hated the walk back to the dorm was slow. Neither of us said much. His steps were heavy, mine were careful. When we got to the room, he didn't even bother turning on the light. He just dropped his keys, kicked off his shoes, and sat on the floor with his back against the bed. I sat beside him, close but not touching. The silence stretched. "I don't get it," he said finally. "We were fine. She used to laugh at everything I said, and now she barely looks at me. People don't know how to handle real things." I said, "They like surface level connections, but you feel everything that scares people." He looked at me for a long time. "You always say the right thing, Mabe. I just know you better than anyone else ever will." Thunder. He leaned his head back against the mattress. "You're the only person I trust." I wish I could say those words, but they did, and somewhere deep inside something began to burn. We stayed like that for a while. No music, no lights, just the sound of our breathing and the hum of the hallway beyond the door. Then he shifted just slightly and his shoulder brushed mine. I should have pulled away, I didn't. His warmth spread through me, familiar, safe. But different now, too charged. Do you think something's wrong with me? He whispered. No. I answered instantly. You feel things deeply. That's not a flaw. It drives people away, not me. I looked at him, and he looked back. For a split second. The space between us felt dangerous. Maybe the space was too small, or maybe we just outgrown the boundaries we were supposed to live within. Ethan sobbed softly, eyes closed, leaning against my shoulder. And I let him cause I wanted to, because he needed it, because I didn't know how to say no to the only person who had ever made me feel like it mattered. Eventually, we pulled ourselves off the floor and climbed into bed fully dressed, but sleep didn't come easy. I stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every word, every glance, every brush of skin. I told myself nothing had happened, but something had, and I couldn't unfay it. Thunned. He ended it with May on a Tuesday. I'll never forget how he looked when he came back, eyes red, jaw clenched, hands stuffed in his pockets like he didn't know what to do with them. But I knew something had happened the second he walked in. She said I was too much, he whispered. I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't need to. He sat on the edge of his bed, took a deep breath, and let it out in one long exhale, tail that sounded more like a collapse, too intense, too emotional, too attached. He murmured. She said I made her feel like she was drowning. I set the book down. That's not your fault. It always is. He didn't cry right away, not until I moved to sit beside him. Then it came quiet at first, then heavy. His shoulders shook, fists pressed against his eyes like he was trying to erase everything. I wrapped my arms around him, held him like I used to when we were kids, and the world felt dangerous. But this time, the danger wasn't outside, it was between us. Thunned. We stayed like that for a long time. No words, just breathing, just closeness. And then, in a voice so quiet I almost missed it, he said, I don't know who I am without you. I should have been scared by that. But I wasn't. I felt needed, and somewhere inside that need, something in me began to unravel. Thunned. We opened a bottle of wine someone had left in the fridge, poured it in top-upper cups, and drank in silence. After a while he started talking, really talking about how he always felt like he was performing for everyone, how being the funny one, the strong one, it wasn't always real. But you, he looked straight at me, you always see the real me. Felt it again, that burn in my chest. You make it safe to fall apart, he whispered. I reached out, brushed his hair from his forehead, a small soft motion, but it lingered. He leaned into my hand, and for a moment the air between us wasn't just heavy. It was charged. Anochi, don't want to be alone tonight, he said. You're not, I whispered. The kiss wasn't planned, it wasn't bold or dramatic, it was quiet, slow, sad, the kind of kiss that tastes like grief. I didn't even realize I was crying until he brushed a tear from my cheek. Are we doing something wrong? I asked. I don't know, he murmured. But it doesn't feel wrong right now. Thunned. Our clothes never came off. There were no declarations, no wild gasps or loud moments, just skin and warmth and the weight of everything we carried 4 years pressing in on us from every side. I felt like I was holding a part of him no one else had ever seen, like I had stepped into a room inside his heart that had always been locked, and in that moment I gave him all of me, not because I wanted to claim him, but because I wanted to heal him. Thunned. When it was over, we lay side by side, fully dressed, breathing in the quiet. Neither of us spoke. The silence was loud, uncomfortable. He turned away, facing the wall. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, not from excitement, but from something heavier, something that felt like shame. The room was dark, but I could still see the outline of him. The shape I'd known my whole life now felt foreign. We didn't talk about it the next morning. He made coffee, I folded my laundry. We kept our distance just enough to keep the air between us from snapping, but inside I was a mess. My mind ran in loops. Was it a mistake, or had we just been avoiding something that was always there? The days that follow blurred together, not in chaos, more like a dream you keep waking up from but still want to fall back into. Our dorm became its own little planet, isolated, quiet, separate from everything else outside those four walls. Life went on, classes, cafeteria noise, group chats buzzing about homework and parties, but inside it was just us. We barely talked about that night, as if speaking it aloud might break the fragile world we'd created. Instead, we lived in the silence, close, complicit, comforting, and dangerous all at once. I stopped seeing my friends, not on purpose, just faded invitations went ignored, messages left unread. I spent hours in the dorm even when Ethan Ethan wasn't there waiting for the sound of his key in the door when he came back from class. We barely spoke. He tossed his backpack on the floor, sit down next to me, and that was enough. The physical closeness returned slowly at first, then all at once a brush of a hand. Glance held a beat too long. He wasn't mine, not really, not in the way I craved, but he allowed me near him, and that became the thing I couldn't get enough of. I didn't even realize how far I was thinking. I told myself I was protecting him, that no one knew him like I did, that we were both healing in our own way, but the truth, I was addicted not to what happened that night, but to how it made him feel. I had never felt so seen, so chosen, so necessary, even if he never said it out loud. I promised myself I meant more to him than anyone else ever could. He started doing better in school, like something had unlocked inside him. Professors praised his focus, his confidence returned. He smiled more, laughed again, and that made me feel like I was doing something right, even if it was wrong. But me, I was slipping, skipping classes, turning in assignments late. I barely noticed. All I wanted was to be near him. Scout Chapman, my closest friend since freshman orientation, noticed. She caught on before I did. You good? Scout asked one afternoon after Sci class. Just tired, I shrugged. Is it Ethan that stopped me? What do you mean? She raised an eyebrow. I don't know you to have always been close, but lately it's been different. How? She hesitated. Are you and he too close? My chest tightened. What does that even mean? I whispered. Forget it. She backed off. But I couldn't forget that night. I stayed up until 3 o'clock a.m. journaling like I used to when I was younger. Page after page of confusion, guilt, need, shame, silence. I wrote things I didn't want to admit, that I didn't know where Ethan ended, and I began that I felt jealous when he spent too long texting someone else, that I kept replaying the sound of his voice when he told me I was the only one he trusted. I carried that journal everywhere after that. I needed it because he wasn't talking to me like before. Not really. He was calm, always calm, almost distant now, but never cruel, just unreadable. The deeper I fell, the further away he drifted, and still stayed still. I waited, every touch, every glance, no matter how small it was. Deeper, I thought I was strong. I thought I was in control. I was wrong. It happened on a Thursday. The air was warm, fooling me into thinking it was spring, though the calendar said otherwise. I came back from class and found Ethan sitting on the edge of his bed, jaw tight, fingers frozen over his phone. What's wrong? Hazel messaged me. My stomach dropped. She wants to talk. Are you going to meet her? He finally looked at me. I think I should. That night, I pretended to read while he slipped out quietly. No explanation, no details, just gone. Panic crawled up my spine. My mean spoon. Was he kissing her, holding her hand like he held mine? Was he telling her the things he once whispered to me? I couldn't breathe. I opened my journal and spilled everything, page after page. I'm losing him again. I hate her. I hate how calm he is when I'm falling apart. The next morning, Scout showed up. Hey, she said softly, placing a coffee on my desk. Thanks. She tittied the corner off me desk, a habit she had when she was nervous. Where's Ethan? Out with Hazel. I didn't answer. Her eyes landed on my journal. That's private, I said too quickly, but it was too late. Her face paled as her eyes scanned the page. Avery, what is this? I tried to grab it back, but she stepped away. Tell me this isn't what it looks like. It's not really. Her voice cracked. Because it looks like you've been writing love letters to your brother. You don't understand? Then help me. Her voice shook. Help me understand how you ended up here. He's not just my brother. Scout. Then what is he? I didn't know when I started crying. He's everything. Then Scout stood frozen. Please don't tell anyone, I whispered. Please. She didn't speak for a long time. Then in a low voice, if I don't, and something happens, I'll never forgive myself. Nothing's going to happen. How can you be sure? Because we're careful. She shook her head. This isn't just wrong, Avery, it's dangerous. The room felt colder after she left. I curled up on my bed and waited for Ethan. He came back around midnight. Did she want you back? I asked quietly. No. How do you feel? He sat down, unreadable, relieved. And us? He looked at me, then really looked. You needed me just as much as I needed you. And something about the way he said it, so calm, so certain, it scared me, cause I realized I didn't know who I was without him anymore. Scout didn't text for today's night, no follow-ups. I told myself she had let it go, but I knew better there. The knock came on a Monday morning, 2 soft taps, then silence. Ethan was brushing his teeth. I opened the door. K. The floors are stood there, clipboard in hand, looking uncomfortable. Thun, sorry to bother you, he said. I just need to speak to you both separately. My stomach twisted. What's this about? Ethan asked, stepping beside me. K glanced between us. Nothing serious, just a quick chat in the office. You'll go first, Avery. Thun. The room was small, bare walls, no warmth, no safety. Someone filed a report, he said softly. They're concerned about something going on between you and your brother. I couldn't speak. We're just trying to understand the situation, he continued. We're not here to judge. We haven't done anything wrong, I said, but my voice cracked. So you and Ethan have no inappropriate relationship? Paused. Along we're close, I whispered. That's all. When I walked back upstairs, Ethan was waiting. What did they ask? Everything. The next few days were a blur. Follow-up emails, formal language, like we were case files now. Thund. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Thund. Then the email came. Due to the ongoing investigation, Ethan would be relocated immediately. If we had 24 hours, I watched him pack in silence. No arguments, no breakdowns. Just him folding shirts into a suitcase like he was going on vacation. Okay. And then he was gone. No hug. No goodbye, just the sound of the door closing behind him, and a silence so loud crushed me. I lay on his empty bed that night, stared at the ceiling until morning. Time moved differently after he left. Some days passed in a blink, others drag. I stopped counting. The dorm felt colder. His bed stayed empty. I didn't move his things for weeks. His blanket stayed folded, his toothbrush untouched. Took longer than I wanted to admit, to accept that I started therapy after my advisor referred me first. I barely spoke, legs crossed, eyes fixed on the corner of the rug. I therapist waited, no pressure. Eventually the words came. I told her about the pain, the secrets, the fear of being seen. She said something I still think about. There's a difference between love and survival. Sometimes we confuse them when they always look the same. That hit me hard. I started writing again, not just journaling, but really writing story poems full of letters I didn't know how to send. One afternoon, a message from Scout. Hey, I've been thinking about you. Thund. We met for coffee. It wasn't easy, but we talked slowly, honestly. Thund. Weeks passed. Then a small envelope slid under my door. No return address, just my name in his handwriting. Thund. 3 lines. We broke, something beautiful and ugly. I'll never forget. Thund. No signature, just that I read it over and over, and for the first time in a long time I was okay with that. Healing isn't linear. Some days I still miss him. Some nights I dream we're kids again, sharing secrets under the blankets. But when I wake up, I remind myself of the truth. Love built in pain doesn't always lead to peace, and sometimes letting go is the only real way to hold on. If you've made it this far, let me ask you something. What would you do if love and pain looked exactly the same? Would you walk away, or would you fall deeper thinking you could change the ending? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be here telling the stories most people are too afraid to say out loud. Until then, be careful with your heart.